Hello and welcome to Conversations with Ruth. I am Ruth. I am also known as Notorious RVG. During the time I worked with ACLU, I encountered legal aid attorneys and was always impressed with their dedication and good work. I realized that I do not know much about legal aid of North Carolina. I have wondered what legal aid really is. How is legal aid able to serve all those that are eligible for its services? That legal aid not only provides services in specific areas, but to target populations, such as veterans, seniors, Native Americans, and victims of trafficking. Equally important is what are the services legal aid provides? Well, to answer those questions, I ask that you join me in a series of interviews about getting to know legal aid of North Carolina. I promise you that I and you together, we will learn what legal aid is and what services it provides. Welcome. We have been talking about special projects of legal aid of North Carolina. The special projects, as we have said before, target special populations or specific issues of law, such as domestic of violence victims, education law, fair housing. Today we are going to talk about the Disaster Relief Project. This project is unique among all the special projects because instead of targeting a special population or special laws, it targets an event, a natural disaster, such as the hurricanes. When a natural disaster occurs, as for example, Hurricane Florence or tornadoes, residents suffer very special legal needs. The Disaster Relief Project, as I understand, has a mission to create organized, immediate, and ongoing response to address those special legal needs that I mentioned. Today, we are going to be talking to the managing attorney of the Disaster Relief Project, Ms. Leslie Albitron. Ms. Albitron, I am privileged to have you here. Thank you for coming. So, in my description about the disaster relief, was it accurate, or is there anything else you want to add about the general mission of the disaster relief?
No, that's an accurate description. Our mission is to help our clients recover from a natural disaster, and our clients who are experiencing a natural disaster experience many of the same legal needs that our clients who we serve on a daily basis here at Legal Aid do. It's just that they've experienced a natural disaster on top of those problems.
Are there any legal needs that are specific for someone that has been a victim of, let's say, a hurricane?
When the federal government declares a national emergency, or a state of emergency because of a natural disaster, then there are certain federal agencies that come into play to help out, and there's certain funding that's available to survivors of a natural disaster. And so those agencies are FEMA and Housing and Urban Development and the Small Business Administration. And those legal problems that arise when hurricane survivors or survivors of a natural disaster are trying to access those funds are very unique to a situation like that.
So when there is a natural disaster such as a hurricane, and you have to deal with those specific needs and specific agencies, where are the attorneys that handle those matters?
Well, in the case of Legal Aid of North Carolina, those attorneys are in the FEMA recovery centers, in the Red Cross centers, in the communities that have been impacted. They work in our local offices, and then we send them out into the field so that we can go to the clients instead of the clients having to come to us.
So these are attorneys that are in local legal aid offices that have been subjected to the disaster relief, or from all over North Carolina.
That's right. And if we don't have enough attorneys in the impacted areas of the state, we can bring attorneys from other parts of our organization who may live in the western part of the state, for instance, if there's a hurricane in the east. So we make sure.
Do you rely on volunteer attorneys too?
We do. We do. In fact, in the case of Hurricane Florence, not only did we rely on some volunteer attorneys from inside the state of North Carolina, but we were able to find help from outside of the state as well.
Wonderful. How do you train them? Because this has to be somewhat a specific practice of law.
We try to get ahead of the storm, so to speak. So during times when we may not have an immediate need for attorneys to help in this way, we train them ahead of time to make them prepared so they have the tools and the information they need to assist when a natural disaster strikes. We host CLEs, continuing legal education programs, to train volunteer attorneys.
Does the project also educate the community?
We do. We found the best way for our clients to recover from a natural disaster is to have the tools ahead of time to prevent some of the problems that may arise. So we try to provide community education events both right after a natural disaster but also beforehand.
Part of the response has to be immediate, right after it occurs. Now, the last storm was last year in September. Are there still effects of that storm that required the project involvement?
Yes. Oh, yes.
And what are some of those?
Well, there are still a lot of housing concerns, and because we serve a population of North Carolina that's low income and may not have a lot of resources anyway, their recovery can be a lot slower than other folks. So they have, even 6 months out from the hurricane, they're still having issues with finding safe and permanent housing, with habitability concerns in their homes. They may continue to be displaced. There may still be some food insecurity issues. And whenever you're dealing with trying to get funds from a federal agency, there can be eligibility requirements that our clients need help in meeting.
When you were talking a little bit about how you manage to get attorneys involved, it seems to me you get an army of attorneys, volunteers, legal aid attorneys, even out of state you mentioned. Are there any specific legal aid attorneys that's all they do, disaster relief?
We do. We have several attorneys who are dedicated, who dedicate all their time to providing legal assistance for people recovering from natural disasters.
And are there any grants that support the project?
We have a grant from the Golden Leaf Foundation right now that supports our work for hurricane relief.
Well, tell us a little bit about that grant. Are they still right now providing services?
They are. That grant supports not only our legal work but the outreach efforts that we do, and it supports our work in the eastern part of the state right now.
I look a little bit into it and I see that there have been over 1,000 cases open since September. That is quite impressive. Well, unfortunately, I think we have run out of time. I'm truly grateful that you came. Great work you all are doing. Thank you for coming, Ms. Arbitron.
Thank you so much.